This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions.
News, laws, and regulations are changing by the day. We get it. And at ADP, we're here to help guide you with up-to-the-minute compliance expertise, so you can pay your people accurately and on time, regardless of what each new day may bring. Learn more at adp.com.
This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. I'm a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. This podcast will help and support you with new ideas about business. These are my thoughts, ideas, and comments. Today, I've got Jack Bosch, who is a real estate investor. Hello, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. We've just had on our lockdown in London, slight restrictions eased, so everyone is starting to leave the house a little bit. How has COVID affected you and your business?
So COVID actually has affected our business in a surprisingly positive way. So what we do is we do land flipping, and we basically buy and sell pieces of real estate in the United States in a virtual way, and it's 100% location independent way. In other words, we have people doing this from overseas, from Germany, from South America, from Asia, and even Australia, and I believe in a few in Britain too. And what is interesting is that when COVID has kind of forced everyone to be at home, people actually ended up having more time to look for things that they want to do. And I guess my theory is that they're sick and tired of being at home. So because of that, they're much more willing now to go and buy, even more than before, to go buy a piece of land on the outskirts of town, or even some of the rural land that we have available is flying off the shelves. So our business has actually been going up. And there's a study that just was released, or survey, that says that 39% of Americans could imagine moving into more rural areas where there's all more space around them and where they can be not so perched together. And so this is already reflected in the level of interest in the people. So I think it's a combination of them being locked up at home and having an RV or a dirt bike or a motorcycle and things like that they want to use and they can't. And there's like, oh, let me just buy something so I can use it. And the fact that people also have not been able to spend money, so they have saved money, and the combination of them being at home and having all day to surf the internet and then find these offerings. And so, but whatever it is, our interest has been at least 25-30% gone up during the COVID time, and our sales have really done really well.
So if people are finding land, are they buying land for themselves to build their own properties on, or are they looking for buy-to-lets or commercial builds that they want to build?
So we focus on three kind of properties. We focus on properties that are typically below, all our properties are usually below 150,000 US dollars. So between like $5,000 or $10,000 and $150,000 is kind of our sweet spot. Yeah. In that range, we focus on three properties. One is properties in the city, and those we typically sell to builders, to companies that build them right away, build a house on it and sell it. And there's lots of demand because also the baby boomers and the millennials, they don't want to live out 20 miles or 30 miles outside of the city. They want to live in the city. They want to be able to bicycle to their coffee shops and those things, which in the United States, as you know, life is different than in England. It's this urban sprawl happening that everything goes miles and miles and miles out from the cities, and people commute forever to come in. They really want to be in the city. The second kind of property people focus on is properties in the outside of the city in the path of growth, because the urban sprawl will continue, and there's more and more people move into the city as the population grows. More and more people move outside, and those are very attractive to either future retirees that want to have a little bit of a lower cost lifestyle because they don't have that much saved up for retirement, or also financial buyers that just buy it. They don't build anything on it, and they wait for the city to come close, and then they build. Then the value goes up. either one of those will typically typically not build on the property right away, but build like 10, 15 years later, or sell it to a builder at that point to build 10, 15 years later. Right. And the third property is really our recreational property, which is like usually 10 acres, which is like 4,000 square meters. I don't know if it translates well. 10 acres and more. And those are like an hour to 3 hours away from bigger cities, like the little plant or the mini ranch out in the green that a lot of people like to go take their RV in there, their camper, their tents, their dirt bikes, they do bonfires, do bow and arrow shooting, take their kayaks with them if it's close to a lake and things like that. So it's the outdoors community, and that is a multi-billion dollar community market that where people love this. And in the United States, this is one of the one of the biggest things people do on the weekends. They have an RV, they have an ATV, they have a dirt bike, and they just go out. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and 2 hours from here, there's the mountain ranges and there's lakes and there's all these things, and hiking and skiing in winter. And every Friday afternoon, the interstate is completely blocked on the way up with everyone going up there, and everyone has a Jeep, has an RV, has a trailer, has a boat, has any of these things with them that they go up there. It's absolutely crazy. They store it during the week and go spend their weekend outdoors because they can't do it in the city. It's too hot or it's just too crowded.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. We'll talk about your different property strategies a little bit later, but I want to go back to the start. So tell me about your business administration degree that you did in Germany.
Okay. So I grew up in Germany. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from there. I now have the German-American accent here, but I am. So I grew up in Germany. I went to university. And back then, it wasn't like the bachelor-master's program. It was basically a little bit longer trajectory to an equivalent of an American master's. And this, I saw it was business administration. I studied finance and I think what else was like industrial management or so. And really, what I wanted to do my plan was always going to corporate America, or corporate Germany in that case. I had a job lined up already. I was a student worker at a software company, consultancy. I wanted to stay in that path, perhaps go to a management consulting company down the road, and went to University of Stuttgart, or actually Hohenheim, which is close to Stuttgart, Germany. Then I took a half-a-year break, went to an internship in Spain, came back. Then I switched over for the final 2.5 years to the University of Mannheim, which is a well-known university in Germany, one of the top probably 3, and for business. And upon, so that's what I did. The goal was corporate Germany. Towards the very end of this, though, I realized that I had an opportunity to apply to a partner university of the University of Mannheim. Mannheim is like an hour south of Frankfurt, Germany. And that university, there was a few available. I had missed the deadlines for multiple already. But that university, because it was a partner university, allowed me to take my last few classes that I should have needed to take in Germany, to take those in the United States, get credit for them in Germany. So basically, with the credit I get in the United States, I would finish my German master's degree, my diploma there. It's the equivalent of an American master's. But I also would be able to get an American MBA in the same thing. And the Americans, because I had done a lot of classes in Germany already, would give me credit for a full year of work in the United States. So this is like this mutual credit kind of thing. Yep. And on top of it, as the third, and in my opinion at the time, most important benefit, I was looking to improve my English. Because you know how good or not good Germans speak English, right? Yeah. And they're not that far away from
most are good. A lot better than people in the UK speaking German. So I think they're a lot better on that side than the English.
Right, but it's not very pretty to hear most of the time. And my English was just the same way. So I really, again, having to looking into my career, that I wanted to be in corporate America, corporate Germany, or corporate whatever, in a big consulting company, or making a quick career in management and so on. That was I realized I needed to learn English, because English is the language of commerce. So I took that chance. I figured, it's going to look great on my resume. I'm going to look like I'm flexible. I'm willing to move. I get an American MBA. It improves my grades, because I figured apparently like it's easier to get better grades in that university than it was in Germany. Yeah. It's kind of like it completes so many things in 1 year. It's like, let's do it. Right. So I put my furniture, my student apartment in my parents' basement, tell them I see you in a year. And now it's 23 years later, and I'm still in the United States.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show, Meet the Future of Healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe, and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, Meet the Future of Healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
Wow, it's a fantastic story. So when I was doing some reading about you, you said that you moved to the US with only a suitcase and a bunch of student debt.
Correct.
So you sort of talked about the movement into the US. So you wanted to improve your language, but still, was it corporate America that you were aiming towards, or were you thinking that you might be an investor or something like that?
No, the investor was nowhere on the horizon. I was planning the game of working until I'm 65, going up the career ladder, making a really good income, taking vacations, starting a family, and then retire, and that's it. That's what I've been brought up with. That's what my father is a high school teacher. My mom is a stay-at-home mom. Nobody in my entire family, except for one distant uncle, second or third degree uncle, who is an entrepreneur in a very non-sexy business that I was not attracted to. Everyone else was going the employee path. So there was nothing of that in my eyesight. What happened is, when I came here, though, is the number one reason I wanted to stay in the United States is that I met a lovely young girl, right? Where love falls, as they say, right? So I met this lovely girl, and she was actually not from the United States either. She was an immigrant from Honduras, Central America. Okay, yeah. So it's like a few countries down from Mexico. There's this tiny country called Honduras. Wonderful people, and she was from there, and she was finishing her degree at the same time. She was doing the undergrad degree, a bachelor's, and so we decided to see if we could not make this work. I mean, I figured let's try. Well, this is serious. We really like each other, really love each other. Let's try to make this work, and so we both decided to stay here. And the positive thing is that when you study in the United States for 1 year in college, you get automatically a work permit for 1 year. Right. You just have to be then making, and I believe that's still the case, you just have to make sure that you pick a company that is also willing after that year, if you prove yourself, to sponsor the further leading visas, and the further leading visa that ultimately gets your green card. In my case, that was the H-1B visa. So now there was no plans of being an entrepreneur. It was plans of, hey, if I don't do corporate Germany, let me do corporate America. And so I got a job. I was lucky. I got a job at a software company again, because I was working in Germany in a similar kind of industry. So that helped me a lot. It was a coincidence. And then and off we went. And Michelle was able to get a job in at a computer, first of all, like an online education company, and then she switched over to a computer company, and so a hardware company. And bottom line is, it worked out. We're now married 19 years, and actually celebrating our wedding anniversary this week, a 19-year wedding anniversary, and have a beautiful 12-year-old daughter. So everything worked out on that end. And ultimately, through 5.5 years of working in that company, we also ended up getting our American permanent residency, the American green card.
Yeah.
What happened though is during those 5.5 years, I went from loving to work for somebody else to not enjoying my job anymore, to really disliking what I was doing, to really hating what I was doing, to really being afraid of losing my job, to really, even though I was doing well and I was got good reviews, but there was an economic recession in the middle. This company let go of 40% of their staff. There's a lot of turmoil happening during that time. And it was a job that I had to travel 100%. So I left Sunday night or Monday morning, jumped on an airplane, flew somewhere, and come back Friday night. That is generally not a problem. That's how I kind of envisioned my life in Germany too. The only thing is that in Germany, it's a small country. When you go as a consultant into a company, it's downtown, there's restaurants, there's bars, there's places around, it's an experience. In the United States, most of these companies are in the suburbs, and you're staying at a Holiday Inn Express where ants are crawling up the wall. You're eating like burgers and chips and things like that. I gained like 15 pounds in my first 8 weeks or so working there. Yeah. And you work from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on top of it, I was away from my girlfriend, fiance, and then wife. And so in combination, it was just not what I wanted to do. So the idea of breaking out and doing something different started creeping into my mind, and my mind began to change about this long-term corporate America or corporate anything kind of career.
So just talk to me about the transition from corporate America into property, and then we'll go into different property strategies that you've got. So you said you ended up not enjoying your job. Was there a transition phase where you were doing a bit of property as well as your consultancy work, or did you drop down to 3 days a week? How did you manage that transition into property investing?
Yes. So the transition happened gradually because of the fact that I could not lose my job. Because if I would have lost my job, and then we moved from Chicago, where we used to live, then to Phoenix, Arizona, because Michelle, my wife, also wanted to then do a master. So she went to a very good university here called Thunderbird Global School of Management, International Management. And so we continued our path. The company I worked for had an office here in Phoenix, so they allowed me to travel because they allowed me to move because they really cared that I lived close to an airport. That's really all they mattered.
Right.
So
it didn't matter whether you were West Coast or East Coast.
It didn't really matter. It mattered a little bit, but they have software projects all over the U.S. So from Phoenix, they would send me more to the West Coast, Los Angeles. From Chicago, they would send me more to Detroit. But even there was a time that I traveled for months at a time from Phoenix to Wisconsin, which is north of Chicago even. Wow. So that's the times where I had to leave at 10 o'clock at night on Sunday night, fly through the night, get there at 6 or 7 in the morning, and then work all day and then drop that in bed. And so those are the things that got me to the point of wanting to leave. Yeah. But here's the issue. I had two thoughts in my mind. First is, I now was in this company for multiple years already, and a complete career shift after you have been in a career path for so long is not the easiest thing anymore. You can't go into marketing all of a sudden if you're in software implementation. Yeah. It's going to be a hard time getting that transition. So I didn't like that because I'm not a software person, and I didn't enjoy being now. I looked into the future, and it's like, okay, this job is doing what it needs to be doing, which is getting me the green card, but I don't want to be plugged into this line of business for the rest of my life because I'm not a software guy. I don't like the constant like the moment you learn something is obsolete and you have to relearn something new, which a lot of people enjoy. Yeah. But I actually don't. I enjoy something that doesn't change. I enjoy things that are like a certain way and then they incrementally change, and that's great. But they don't like massively change all the time. So I was like, I'm not going to be happy being in that line of business forever. Thought number one. And thought number two was, I can't quit my job, because if I quit my job, I'm losing my visa, because the visa, the H-1B visa, is actually in your passport. It says, Jack Bosch, your visa is tied to this company. And the rules say that if you quit or if you let go, you have 60 days to find another company that picks up that visa again, or you have to leave the country.
Right.
So I couldn't start right away. I couldn't wait. I couldn't just sit there and wait and then quit my job. We had very little savings. I wasn't making that much money. We had just bought a starter home with like only a 3% down payment and monthly payments. And so we were basically, our hands were tied. So what we did is we started looking around for what else we can do. And we came across real estate to some of these, to these commercials and television, this adverts, I think you call them in England, or whichever ways, like this advertising in the television. And we read some books, and we liked the concept of real estate more and more and more, because from my understanding, it fulfilled the 4 biggest requirements that I was identified as what I wanted to do. Number one, it needed to be profitable, and not profitable marginally, but profitable in a scale that would give us the financial freedom to do what we wanted to do in our lives. And our goals were not big at the time. Our goals were just replace my job, perhaps double my income, and have much more time to be able to go travel back to Europe, go visit family, because my brother, my parents, my cousins, my friends from school and university, they're all still in Europe. I was the only one that moved over here. And lastly, the number two, profitable, number two, that I could do it, that it wouldn't require a lot of maintenance. So not something that I have to be all the time. Like you open a bakery, you have to be there making sure that the bread is baked every day and so on. So I didn't want to do that. Number three, something that provides passive income, so that if I don't have to do much maintenance, if I don't have to be there all the time, and if it provides passive income, now I have that's like the best of all worlds, right? Profitable, don't have to be there, provides income. That's a trifecta of amazingness. And number four, I needed something that I could do part-time. Part-time and from a distance too, because I was traveling. 1 week I was here, 1 week I was there, 4 weeks I was here, 6 weeks I was there. So I couldn't even do something in the markets that I was. I couldn't buy and fix up a house in Chicago if I was there for 2 weeks, because it could be that I get on Thursday, hey, next week you will be in Florida, right? And I couldn't do it in Phoenix either, because I would come back here Friday night, would leave here Sunday night or Monday morning. So I needed something that is truly location independent. Yeah. And that's when we then stumbled over land flipping and actually invented it, because there was really nobody teaching this whatsoever. We came across it, and we came across a strategy that would allow us to do all that, where we're dealing with land, which means we don't have to go in there with a key, open a door. We don't have to inspect anything. Google Maps, Google Earth, Google County websites, geographical information system websites show you everything you need to see of the property. We don't have to repair anything. We don't have to meet the sellers, because we can do this by mail. We don't have to meet the buyers, because we can use social media to sell these properties. So as a result, we created a business that is truly doable from anywhere in the world. And we do it inside the United States, because the United States is, in my opinion, the best place to do this in the world for multiple reasons.
So let's just explore this strategy of land flipping. So I understand the basics. You've just sort of talked us through the basics of what it is. But I suppose just talk to me a little bit about what drove you, how you were successful. Because I read that you had a turnover of $1 million in the first 18 months, which is amazing. $1 million, which is absolutely amazing. So how did the strategy work so perfectly for you in those first 18 months?
Yeah, and actually the 18 months, so this is profit, not just turnover. I don't know if that's the same definition. So this profit, turnover was obviously substantially higher, or revenue as we call it in the US is higher, and profit was $1 million. How? Well, here it goes down to the principles. So first of all, in the house flipping area, which there's lots of shows, there's shows in every country by now, flip this house, flipping Atlanta, flipping Vegas, flipping whatever it is. where people come in and buy these houses at a discount and flip them. Well, if it is possible for houses, it is possible even more for land, because land doesn't have an inherent immediate use for the owners. But one difference in the United States towards the rest of the world really is that United States, the amount of property taxes is tremendously high. So, for example, like if somebody owns a house, like in London, a house, any property house costs like £1 million, I would think, right? So, not
London
every house, but there's...
London is very expensive, yeah. The rest of the country
So,
London is.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So if we take $1 million house in the United States, that house has property taxes from every year. The owner has to pay property taxes from between $10,000 to $20,000 or $30,000 for that house, depending on which part of the country they live in. Right. So even if you have no mortgage on this house anymore, if there's no more loan on the house, you still have to pay between $10,000 and $30,000 per year just to be able to keep that house, because otherwise the state takes it away from you.
Right.
That is different, in my opinion, in Europe. In Germany, that $1 million house would cost you perhaps $400 per year in property taxes. Yeah. So on the contrary, though, there's very little transaction cost when purchasing a property. So, and again, I can't speak for England, but in Germany, there's like a tax when you sell a property. There's the notary public, the attorney charges a fee. Then it costs almost about 8 to 10% of the property value to move that to pass that property from one person to the other. Mm. In the United States, it costs the cost of a so-called title company, which costs like we live in a beautiful home that is over 7,000 square feet, which is like 600 something square meters. And we paid about $5,000 in transaction costs to buy this property. So in other words, when you buy a piece of land or when you buy a property, that is depending on the value of the property, so the fees. But if you buy a piece of land that's worth $30,000, your transaction costs are like $1,000.
Right.
But what happens is once you own a piece of land, you have to pay these property taxes every year. Mm. So what happens is a lot of owners. Now, on a house, that is not the problem because you pay rent every month. If you own it yourself, well, you pay for that. If you have it as an investment property and you rent it out, you lease it out, then the tenant pays that often in addition. Yeah. But on a piece of land that just sits there, the owners have to pay that year after year after year, and oftentimes they don't want to pay that anymore.
Right.
So when that happens, so what we have figured out is a way to find these owners that no longer want these properties, and in many cases they are willing to give those properties to us for literally 5 to 25% of its market value, because they're like have this garage sale mentality. They're like, I don't want it anymore. I don't care about it anymore. As a matter of fact, one of our students right now in Germany has a property on a contract. These are young 21-year-old young college students. They got into a program and it got started with us because we teach this now too. And they just gotten a $50,000 property on the contract for $1,900. So when that happens, so to answer your question, this is basically what we do. We find these properties so cheap because we're focusing on the people who don't want it. In many cases, these are owners that have either passed away and the heirs. Now the heirs are like, oh, great, I'm inheriting something. But what they realize is that, I'm inheriting something that costs me money every year to hold on to.
Yeah.
Because of the property taxes. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore. So they want to get rid of it. And heirs are often the least emotionally attached people in the world. So they just want to get rid of it. Same thing is they bought it 20 years ago for a certain reason. They don't no longer word it right now because that reason has gone away. They wanted to build their retirement house there, but then perhaps the grandchildren are born and they no longer want to be away from the family. They want to hang out with their grandchildren, not move 1,000 miles away. And Americans are very mobile. They like to move. They don't mind moving 1,000 miles. It's no problem. So as a result, we have all these people that have all these properties that we stumbled upon. And we started the very first deal we made an offer on. So we bought this property worth about $8,000 to $10,000, we paid $400 for it because he had just gone through divorce. He didn't want the property anymore. He was moving out of state into a different state. He didn't want to leave anything behind. He wanted to have a clean cut, and he just gave us this property for $400. We sold it the day we bought it.
It's a quick question, Jack.
Yes.
How do you do the research to find those motivated sellers?
Right. So I'll answer that just a second. So what ended up happening that deal is we ended up selling it to the neighbor literally the same day for $4,000. So 10 times our money.
Yeah. And
then the next deal, and that's how deals after deals happen. And if you have these kind of profit margins, the goal, the $1 million, happens pretty quickly. Right. So now to answer your question, we ended up doing 63 deals in our first year, and then 100 and something deals in the first 18 months, and that got us to the $1 million in profit. So how do you do the research for that? Well, we identified that the kind of properties, again, just as I said earlier, the kind of properties that people are not interested in anymore are the properties in the outskirts of I mean, there's all over the country. There's properties that people want to give you that have no value. We would try to stay away from those right away, right? Because in the United States, such a big country, there's areas where the property value is almost zero. So, but what we found is that there's a few criteria that combine that the people who don't want their property anymore have in common. Number one is that the properties are below that $150,000 value. Typically, properties above that value, there's a certain awareness of its value with the owner, and they know what it's worth, and they're not just going to give it to you for $25,000. But below that, they are. Right? Below that, they are. So the second kind of criteria is that a lot of owners live out of state. They live further away. So we like going after those first. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't buy properties from people that live in the same state, but mostly the owners live a certain distance, like at least 50 or 100 miles away from the property.
Yeah.
So, and because of that, to them, it becomes a hassle, right? It becomes, because if it's in an area where there's lots of rain, then it's overgrown all the time. So they have to send somebody out to maintain the property. That's extra cost that they don't want to carry. And so it becomes more and more of a nuisance to own this property because they're not doing anything with it. So, and that's when we come in and then they take it. The third kind of way is that in many cases they have owned the property for multiple years already. Sometimes they get them last year too when they've inherited it, or this year, but often the owners have owned their property for 10 plus years.
Okay.
So those are some of the criteria that we have identified over time. And then in some cases, the fourth criteria, but only about 20% of the cases, they have not paid their property taxes.
Okay.
And that is actually a big important piece here, why this works so well in the United States. All this information about who owns the property, when did they buy it, where do they live, have they paid their property taxes, if not, how much do they owe? All of this information is public information in the United States. It's 100% public information. You can buy this data from websites. You don't even have to come to the United States. We have students in Germany right now. They're doing 35 deals a year. They have not been in the United States for many, many years since they do this. So therefore, it works from England too. It works from anywhere.
Well,
so these are some of the criteria.
Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say. So I actually own 4 properties at the moment, which I have in London. Would you say if for further investing, you would say this strategy could work in the US? Because I don't think it would work in the UK so well, because there isn't as much land that's available for sale in the UK that I think there is in the US. A lot of the inner city areas are built up. A lot of the outskirts are built up of cities as well. So I don't think it might work in the UK, but you'd have to do quite a lot of research. If I wanted to implement your technique, could I do that in the US? Can anyone just sign up to your course?
That's actually that. Yeah, that is actually my main message here, that this absolutely works from the UK in the US. And I agree with you that it probably doesn't work very well in the UK, just like it doesn't work very well in Germany. But it doesn't work necessarily because there's not that much land. There's still land available. There's still lots of land, even in Germany, available. Even my own family, when my grandparents passed away, they sold 3 lots worth about $5,000 to $8,000. They sold them for $1,000 a piece. So it works kind of everywhere. But the main reason it is hard to scale and hard to implement is that the privacy rules in Europe are just much, much more stringent than they are in the United States. Okay. So getting access to the data of who even owns the land is the hardest part. That, however, that barrier is completely removed in the United States. Right. So, and since it's land and it can be done virtual, you can completely do this from UK or from the Maldives or from wherever you want to live in the world in the United States. So I always tell people, like, don't try to necessarily do it in your country. Do it from your country in the United States, because the United States is huge. There's 329 million people living here, but 97% of the property is still land in the United States. Right. And now a lot of that is state owned, but there's still 100 times more land in private hands that there's actually houses on land. So this works beautifully in the States. There's almost no competition. You only have to take into consideration a few extra things. For example, when you have to automate a few extra pieces. If you would like, we can talk about these pieces. So give some concrete steps to outsource this business from the UK. Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is if you think through our process, and I can give you the process steps. So the first step is we need to identify areas that we want to target. Well, you can do that from anywhere in the world using your computer. The second step is you then want to obtain lists. You can do that from anywhere in the world using your computer, because there's online databases that you pay for the actual property records and the ownership records, and it costs something like 3 cents American per record. So if you need 1,000 records, it costs about $30. Not much, right? So, and on average, our students gets a deal for every 500 to 600 letters that they send out. So if you send out 1,000 on average for $30 of data costs, you can already get some records. Then you can potentially already get some deals. So we are also, the next step is we're pursuing a direct mail, the direct mail process. So we contact the owners of these properties with direct mail. But again, contrary to houses, in the housing world, there's a lot of competition and lots of people use direct mail. In the land side, almost nobody is operating in that space. So people actually open these letters and responding in a much, much higher response rate than the housing world. A typical house investor gets a below 1% response rate. We typically get a 3 to 10% response rate. Right. So that's much higher. So what do you need to do in order to send out letters? You need to have a mailing house that can do that for you. We have in our system, in our educational platform, we have relationships, alliances with multiple mailing houses that we recommend, that already know what letter to use. They already know how to operate. They know exactly what our students do. So they're basically integrated into even the software platform that we have. So you can literally take it, download it from there, just send it to them, and they mail out your letter. So you can sit in the UK and a mailing house sets your letter out from Dallas, Texas, or wherever they sit all over the United States. Yeah. The next thing is when they call back, you need to have somebody have the phone calls for you. You can use a voicemail for that, and that's actually a big advantage of being from the UK. You have the same language, and Americans love the British accent. So you can have a voicemail for $20 a month, costs almost nothing, or Google Voice even for free. Or you can have, if you want to go more professional, you can hire a call center that takes the phone calls for you. Again, we have a relationship with the call center. They know exactly. So like, you're one of our Land Profit Generator students. Boom, they set you up that same day. The next day you can start taking phone calls. So then the next thing is you need a virtual mailbox, because once these offers come back accepted to you by mail again, because we make the offers by mail and a mailing house can send them out for you again, and then the offers come in accepted, you need a virtual mailbox. And there's an abundance of services starting at about $15 a month that can take those, that basically use as your mailing address. So the accepted offer comes in, they scan the envelope, and then you look it up from UK on your computer. Oh, a new thing came in. You check it out, and it takes another day until tell them which of the envelopes you want to be opened. They open it. By the next day, you have this scanned scanned letter in there. There's the scanned acceptance. You just print it out, you co-sign it, you forward it to a title company to start the process of purchasing this property. And then the selling part is the last part. The selling price is 100% done online using websites, land selling websites that are very, or real estate selling websites that are very, very popular in the United States, like Zillow.com, like Zillow. Zillow.com is like the biggest one. There's a small kind of, small this and that kind of website that you can sell all kinds of stuff, garage sale kind of called Craigslist. Craigslist is very, very popular in the United States. Or Facebook Marketplace are the three top platforms that we use to sell these properties. All three are free to use, so there's not even a cost on the selling side. But again, it's all virtual, all from the comfort of your laptop in the UK. And that's the process that our students are doing from Germany, and I mentioned Germany because I'm from there, and we have now an increasing amount of students doing that from there and being very, very successful.
That's absolutely fascinating. I'm sure a lot of my audience will be waiting to the end to hear your contact details and where people can find you, because that sounds like a seamless process. So very, very interesting. Tell me about your book, Forever Cash. I don't know if the philosophy is linked into what you've discussed now, but tell me about the philosophy in the book that you wrote.
So the book, Forever Cash, we published that in 2013, is really not a book about our real estate method. Instead, it is a book about our wealth philosophy. And the wealth philosophy really it ties into what we do, because we use the land flipping as a tool in our overall Forever Cash wealth philosophy. And the overall wealth philosophy basically states that there's three kinds of ways to earn money, or three kinds of cash. The first cash is one-time cash. So it's basically things that you work for one time and you get paid one time. So if you work hourly in a job, you get paid, work for 1 hour, you get paid $15, that's it. Right? You don't show up to work, you don't get paid. The second, but it's also real estate flips. So what you see in like Flip This House and these things, they go, they rehab a house, they buy it for $150, they put $50,000 in, they sell it for $3,000 after closing costs, after all this cost, they make $70,000. Great, this is one-time cash too, but it's a higher quality one-time cash. So what I'm saying is not that one-time cash is bad, it's just that you need it, but you want to focus on the ones that give you a bigger bang for the buck, that you give you a bigger returns. Second, the kind of cash is temporary cash. That's actually something we do a lot in our land flipping, because one way that we love selling the land is instead of buying it, let's say we buy a $30,000 property for $3,000. Happens all the time. We then turn around and we have two choices. Choice one is the one-time cash choice, which means we sell this property for $15,000, which is a complete bargain because it's half price. Yeah. Somebody buys it and we net $12,000 of that transaction. Great, that's done. Wonderful, fantastic. The second way to sell these properties is actually by selling it with owner financing or seller financing. In other words, I take the property, $30,000, I buy it for $3,000, I sell it to somebody for $30,000 because I don't have to discount it now, because the way I sell it is with a $5,000 down payment and monthly payments of $400 for the next 10 years.
Right.
So by doing that, I become the bank. And if you really looked at the deal, I buy it for $3,000, but I get a $5,000 down payment. So I already got more as a down payment than I have paid for the property. So I'm already in the positive. So, but now for the next 10 years or 8 or 10 years, I'm getting cash flow. And that's my definition of temporary cash. Cash flow that comes in for an extended period of time, but it ultimately ends. So it's not forever, it's temporary.
Yeah.
Right? So these two ways is how we sell our properties. And we have many of our students have now replaced their income, some even multiple times replaced their income with cash flow from land deals. And as a result, they have quit their jobs, they have quit their main positions, they've closed their other businesses if they ran a business already, because this business has turned out to be more profitable than anything else. The third kind of cash described in the book is what's called Forever Cash. Now, Forever Cash is cash that you work for once and you get paid forever, for generations, really forever. That, in my mind, the best way for that is, yes, you can invest in dividend stock and things like that, but I love real estate. So this is improved property, rental property. So what we have been doing, and here's how it comes all together, what we've been doing in the book, I describe a process how you do that, but what we have been doing is we have been focusing on our cash machine. Land flipping is our cash and cash flow machine, right? We're focusing on those. We get one-time cash and temporary cash here, but then we move those funds over and reinvest as often and as much as possible of that into forever cash, so that ultimately once I'm 60, 70, 80 years old, or whatever it is, or if I want to stop tomorrow, we have built up enough that we will never have to move a finger in our lives anymore, because we have so much passive asset. We now have almost 50 rental houses. We have over 350 apartment units, apartments and apartment complexes. So that alone brings in so much cash flow that I really don't have to do this anymore, but I do it because it's fun. And we have a team for it right now. It's outsourced and so on. But this is the ultimate definition of financial independence, is to have cash flow coming in for the rest of your life, and for our daughter's life, and for her kid's life, and so on and so forth. So the Forever Cash book covers that philosophy, because what most people do is they earn to spend.
Yeah.
They earn to spend, they earn to spend, they earn to spend, and they have nothing to show for at the end of their work life. And what we are doing is we're earning to invest. Yeah. And then what the investment brings out, that's what we spend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So
I just bought for my birthday, I bought myself a beautiful brand new, I should have worn it, a beautiful brand new IWC Swiss made watch. And this is paid from the cash flow. Yeah. And even though it was expensive, next month I could buy myself another one, because it's not that I will, but it's because the cash from Forever Cash comes back every single month without you doing anything. And it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I agree. So my property strategy is what we call buy to let. So we buy a property and then we rent it out to tenants. And it's a very solid strategy. And after you've paid your taxes and your other costs, you're just making passive income from it. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fascinating. So look out for that book. It's called Forever Cash. So we're going to come to the end of the interview. I do 5 questions that I ask every a person that I interview. They don't need a quick answer. It's up to you. But there's 5 questions. So the first question is, what's the best decision that you made?
The best decision I ever made was to follow my heart and stay here, because I believe the results is what we're living right now. My wife is not just my wife; she's actually a co-founder of this business. Right. As a matter of fact, she is the best example of the power of Forever Cash, because her father passed away when she was 9 months old in the third world country of Honduras. But he luckily had worked really hard, and he had pooled all his resources. And like 3 years before he passed away, and 2 years before she even was born, he put all his resources into one commercial property that he was able to buy with that. And when he passed away, her mom is an elementary teacher with a $400 a month salary. That commercial property was able to pay for her education, for her college, for everything, and still right now pays for the retirement of her mother, and will even contribute to my daughter. So it's the ultimate definition of Forever Cash. But because of that, because my wife, but it's more than that. It's because of the decision of coming here forced us to think differently. It forced us to get out of the comfort zone. It forced us to think, what can I do in a job with 2 weeks vacation and just enough money that I have $400 a month left over to buy groceries and even live on? This is not the life I envisioned. We need to do something different in order to be able to maintain those relationships with our family in Germany, to do trips, to get to know the world. And all of that ultimately strays back to that one big decision. Do I go back home and go that corporate America or corporate Germany, or do I stay here? So that's probably my biggest decision ever.
Excellent. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Say that again?
What's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
The best piece of advice was, I think, those four things that, two things. Those four things that I shared earlier, how to analyze a business. Because I actually sat down with a friend of mine who already had a very successful business, and he says that if we would start again one more time, we would look for the thing as like a business, an industry that's profitable, a business doesn't need a lot of maintenance, something that you can do something that provides cash flow, and that you can do part-time and from a distance. The other part of advice that I've been given is that you want to embrace something that you can manage. Like, I wanted to go for something complicated right away, for like rehabbing a house, and we failed miserably at that because we luckily didn't follow through with it. Otherwise, we would have lost a lot of money. But when we focused on land, we realized we can actually do this because we didn't know much about real estate. We didn't know much about property. We didn't know about how much it costs to estimate. We're from a different continent. We don't know how much it costs to repair this wall or to redo this thing or redo a bathroom. So by keeping things simple, and focusing on one thing, we were able to thrive and really succeed.
That's brilliant. Right, next question. Who helped you most in your career?
Who helped me most in my career? Well, we always have mentors. So we didn't have a mentor for our land business. That's why it took 3 years. But we had mindset mentors. We had books that we read. We had many books that I read. I'm a book reader. I'm a bookworm. So early on, I just read one motivational book after the other. Tony Robbins. I would probably give a lot of credit to Tony Robbins. Went to one of his events, and it changed our mindset to the degree that we grew tenfold the next year.
Yeah.
So, and then ultimately, of course, again, my wife, because she is a real go-getter, and we're building this business together, and from the beginning on, and I don't think I could have done it. I mean, I could have done it, but I don't think it would have worked the same way without her. It would have done it worked in a different way. So there's always multiple people. And then after that, every time now we do something, we always hire a coach for everything that we know that somebody has already done. Yeah. We always find the best coach and hire them.
Good. Do you have any regrets?
Do I have any regrets? Yes, of course. Everyone has regrets, but not enough to matter, right? But we have done really, really well. So the regrets are champagne regrets, right? So the regrets are, for example, when the market turned in 2008 and 9, and real estate in the United States fell off a cliff, houses fell off a cliff. Our land actually did not fall off a cliff for another year, and then it just gently went down over time, and then we kept buying deals cheaper and selling them cheaper. We did deals all the way to the downturn, to the bottom, to the upturn. So we have done deals all the way through that, because when you buy it 10, 20 cents on the dollar, it doesn't matter what the market does. But my biggest champagne regret is that in 2009, when we had $70,000 a month coming in cash flow, when we had cash on the sideline and things like that, we used that cash to buy as many forever cash assets. That's the moment we entered the property market, the improved property market, the house market. And we started buying rental houses as much as possible. And my biggest regret is that we did not go at that point and either went right away bigger for apartment complexes, or gotten with some big investors to get like a big $10 million line of credit. So we could have bought another 100 houses or 200 houses with that. Instead, we bought what we had with our own cash, didn't take on any debt, and that limited us to only 50 houses, which is obviously still a great accomplishment, but we could have 10x that business too. But that was the beauty and the curse of our business, or is the beauty of our curse of business. In the land flipping, you generate profits with so little, so quick, that you don't need to have an established relationship with a bank. You don't need loans from the bank and so on. So when that happened, we were like cash liquid, cash flow strong, but no existing relationships with banks that would give us loans, and we didn't establish them. Only now we have them established. Because we do apartment complexes, we own multiple of them, and so on. But I think so. The message here is that make sure that even if you're running an extremely cash positive business, still establish relationships with the money lending institutions, with the banks, with the things, so that if a huge opportunity comes your way, you can truly massively capitalize on it. We capitalize them to the tune of 50 houses, but we could have done 500 out of those.
Right. Last question. What are you most proud of?
What I'm proud of? I'm proud of having broken out of that what I was generationally conditioned to, which is get a good education and get a good job. I'm proud of the education we can provide to our family. I'm proud of our life. I'm proud of the good we can do with the money we make, because money is not just something you make and you spend. It's also something you can use for good. We're helping charities. We're helping schools in Honduras' hometown. I'm proud of the growth that I am continuously to be willing to go through, because every time you grow, every time you want to achieve something bigger, you got to first grow as a human, as a person, as a business manager, as an executive, as a leader, in order to manage and be able to handle that growth. And since we have been managing our growth for like 18 years now, we have had to grow quite a bit. And so I'm excited about that. I don't know if proud, but I'm excited.
Excellent. Right, so we're coming to the end. Where's the best place that people can find you? So you said that people in the UK or overseas, I've got listeners all over the world, can reach out to you and sort of learn some about the land flipping and everything. Where can people find you?
Wonderful. Yes. So there's multiple ways you can find me. The first way, since you mentioned the Forever Cash book, you can get the book. The book is out of print, but we still have a few copies. And you can get it under forevercashbook.net. So it's important, .net, not .com. Forevercashbook.net. You can get the book for just a few dollars. It's like shipping and handling. It's the last few hundred that we have right now. The second way you can get a hold of us by going to finding more about the educational programs about the land flipping is under landprofitfun.com. Fun like having fun, right? So landprofitfun.com. And the third way is actually it's four ways. The third way, I have a podcast too. It's called the Forever Cash Live Real Estate Podcast. So check it out there. There's quite a few episodes about the land flipping also in there. And the fourth way is we have a Facebook group that is completely free that is called Land Profit Generator, which is the program, our program names, Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing. So if you go on Facebook, you look for Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing, there should be only one group with that name. You join us in there. It's a great group. And in the next few weeks, we're actually going to do even a 5-day free class on that. That has yet another link. I don't know if I can share that many, but it's landprofitmaster.com or landprofitmasters.com. But you can hear also about it in the Land Profit Generator Real Estate Group. We talk about it. And so those are multiple places, and pretty much most of them you can get free information on how to learn more about this.
That's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you, Jack. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.
A payroll and HR company needs to be prepared for whatever's going to happen. You could say that over 70 years of experience helping businesses all over the world run smoothly is good preparation. But for ADP, that's not enough. To make sure millions of people are getting paid on time and in compliance, we're staying on top of each new piece of legislation. So when it comes down to it, ADP isn't just a payroll and HR company. We're the company that helps you navigate the complexities. ADP, HR talent, time, benefits, and payroll, informed by data and designed for people.